if you've landed here today, you're gonna be wanting to know how to get weeds off your patio or driveway, which is a common problem that all of us have. I don't know the answers completely, apart from I have to get my scrapey thing and every day, which does get a bit tedious after a while. So I've got the lovely Pierre Duet, one of the founders of Art of Clean, who's going to help us today with all our questions that we need answering. Hi Pierre.
Hello Tracy, thank you
No,
for
you're
having
very
me here
welcome.
again.
We love having you.
Oh well, thank
Obviously. So I have some questions.
Yes,
I've written them all down because
very good.
my brain doesn't work. So what are the main factors, or actually should we have a little bit of background? Weeds grow everywhere on patios. We have customers asking us all the time, don't we?
Yes, they do happen, and I've had questions before. We've cleaned patios before, and then I have the question after. So it's really a great opportunity for me to address that now.
That's perfect.
Okay.
So the first thing I think we ought to address is, what are the main factors that contribute to weeds growing on your patio and driveway?
First of all, again, I want to step back and just give a bit of a bigger view as to what patio cleaning, weeds on patios and so on. So of course, first of all, let's imagine a patio's left and there's weeds eventually growing in it. So what would happen is, as the weeds grow, those roots are getting bigger and they can push the surface of the patio around. In some cases, something like block paving, those blocks can move a little bit. In other severe cases, what you'll have is trees growing nearby and the roots actually push that up, and it creates cracks in the joints of the patio, sometimes the patio itself. And the other thing that can cause it is, of course, cars driving on the driveway, and those areas starts moving, cracks appearing, and then those cracks is where the seeds would go in and root itself in, and then grow from there. So that's a patio that somebody look at and go, oh, there's a lot of weeds, there's a lot of cracks, it looks ugly, I want to do something. Some of the grout fell out, or the pointing material fell out, and now there's weeds growing everywhere. So what would happen then is, we would go in and we would advise the homeowner to then treat those weeds first before we come and clean the patio area. And it is important to reapply the weed killer a few times. Of course, for safety reasons, these products have reduced in its effectiveness because it reduced the impact on the environment. So we don't like to spray weed killers down, so we ask the homeowner to deal with that first before we come and clean. So what we'll do is advise them to spray it down 3-4 times before we come, for a period of about 4 to 6 weeks before. That's 4 to 6 weeks, just in case somebody has 46. 4 to 6 weeks before, spray it down and get the weeds to die. Now the other thing people might be tempted on doing is just, let's go and pluck it out. The problem is, you just rub the top off and that leaves the weed behind. That's also a problem when somebody comes and clean a patio and there's weeds everywhere. They literally just blast the tops off, and within weeks the weeds are back.
Because you haven't got the root, have you? So.
Exactly. Now, of course, we talked about what caused that, and very, very important. People look at their patio and go, well, my patio is totally sound. You know what? There's no cracks, there's no movement. It's nicely laid. It's been laid last year. Now there's weeds. Why are there weeds? Where did they come from? It's because the little valleys in the patio, in the areas, collects the dust in the air, and with it comes the seeds, and that's how it grows. If I step over here, I can go ahead and show you my little sample. This is a sample of a block paving, and Tracy, what you will notice is there's, of course, the joints where the block paving meets, and there's a bevel, so there's an edge on the brick, and that bevel meets another bevel, and it creates a valley, and that valley is exactly where some sandy soil can land, and with it comes a little bit of weed. And you wouldn't be amazed at how powerful a little weed is to find its way into that little gap there and then starts growing. So that's the first problem. The other problem you will find also is that patios can dip. So because the car drives on it, there's an area that's a little deeper than the rest. The water falls, the rain falls, and it runs into that area and brings with it the soil, and then forms a little place where the weed easily can catch hold of.
So basically it's making sure that all your joints are free from dirt, sand.
Yes, of course, that's a big job, you know. If somebody thinks, goodness me, am I going to vacuum my driveway just to keep the weeds away? You know, just to purely get all the sand away. So from time to time, washing the patio down is a good idea. Even if you've got a small DIY pressure washer, just to wash those areas clean, sweep the area, make sure that, you know, even if you use a hose, you don't have a pressure washer. Use a hose and use a broom and just sweep it clean. And then the other thing you can do is also that bottle of weed killer, though not so powerful these days anymore. Every few weeks, look at where do you see the weed coming up. While the weed is small, just a little spray, and it keeps them at bay. Yeah.
Okay, well I think, could you provide some insights into weed prevention?
Yes. So weed prevention, you know, and I think it's important to say we probably lean towards also finding a natural way of keeping weeds at bay, and then of course the idea of using weed killer.
We've kind of covered the weed prevention, haven't we?
Yes.
Just weed killer.
We use a little bit of weed killer that you can use there and get the weeds out. And if you can get the weed while it's small, and you literally pick it out and you get the roots out with it, then that keeps the weed at bay.
Okay. I think we've actually covered pretty much everything that our customers want to find out.
There are sometimes customers that ask me, what is the natural way of creating, stopping weeds growing?
Yeah, have we got any natural tips?
There are tips out there. It's not necessarily that I would advise people to do this because there are risks of doing this.
Okay.
Some people say use salt and mix it in with the sand that goes between the block paving gaps.
So do they not like salt?
The thing is, the weeds will less likely grow in that sandy soil that's very, very salty. So you will mix a lot of salt in that.
Just to get
it to a place where the weeds won't grow. The problem with that is salts will then create efflorescence and you can have white patches on your patio.
Oh yeah, when we don't.
So there's a downside to using that method, although I've heard people say it's quite effective.
I suppose it's okay if you haven't got a orangey kind of floor where the white patches are going to show up. If
the white patches would show up even if you have a lighter patio.
Really?
Yes,
So,
there's a risk of that, the salts coming through, and that becomes a problem later.
Is there anything else?
You know what? The other thing you can do if you're not very keen on using a weed killer, boil your kettle, take the hot water and literally pour it onto the weed. So if you see only a few weeds and you're absolutely anti weed killer, boil the kettle really hot and pour that onto the weed.
Just be careful of all your flower beds.
Yes, of
Something
course.
we automate.
No, of course we are talking
always,
weeds.
Yeah, because we have to be careful of your flower beds and your grass. Hot water will kill your grass as well as your weeds.
Yes, so just pour a little bit of hot water over the weed, and you might need to do it twice if it's a big weed, but that's
and then
another.
They should just come out quite quickly.
Well, they will die back, and then if it's dead, then into it. You can get rid of it.
Well, I think we've covered everything for your patio and your weeds. So if there's anything else you need to know, give us a call. We are always here to help everybody.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye.